I think that to tell you about the agency, I have to tell you about myself. So my name is Alex. I've been an insurance agent for about 24 years. I got into the industry like most people, not because I was looking to, but my father needed free labor. The agency started in 1996. My father had left a different industry, manufacturing, clothing manufacturing to be specific, because unfortunately that industry just got exported. So he had to learn to do something new, and someone told him he'd be a great insurance agent. Being that he had never worked for anybody besides his father, he decided he would do the smart thing and open a business and open an insurance agency. 6 months after that, he needed free labor. And so he looked at me and he's like, hey, if you're not doing anything, and I really wasn't, he's like, I could use the help. And if the worst that could happen is you don't like working with dad and you have a license, you could work someplace else. And I got into the industry and we fell in love with it. Both of us did. So we started off thinking we were going to be a private, personal lines agency, like the average agency. But we found that we didn't think at all like the average personal lines customer. Being that he had been a business owner his whole life, he thought like a business owner. So the decision making process was very different, and so he started to win more with small commercial accounts. And I found that is where I also, since I learned from him, it's where I also tended to excel. So we've been doing small business insurance, specializing in small business insurance, pretty much from the get-go. And 24 years later, we're still, that's who we want to be, and that's what we are about. It's everything that we want to be, because we found that what we love about the industry is we have this really cool opportunity to go into small businesses and help them think about how they're going to survive. Not just how they're going to survive an accident, right? Or how they're going to survive some kind of a loss. That's a part of it. But just change the mindset from, hey, I'm a small business, I'm just trying to make another buck, to, hey, I'm a small business, how am I going to use this buck to double it next year? And what's going to happen to my cash flow, and how do I prevent that? And so that is the part that we like, right? That's that drive that we have, because we're not just selling insurance, we're educating people and then helping them place products that's going to help their business grow. And so we just learned early on. So we've had a website since 1997. I know that sounds like a bajillion years ago and dates me, but what happened was the first ever insurance phone call I picked up was a customer who asked me if I had a website, or a prospect actually, who asked me if I had a website, which is weird. I know it was 97, but I didn't, or we didn't, and they hung up the phone. And so I'm a reasonably capable person when it comes to technology. So the next day we had a website. I bought the domain, much to many of my family members' chagrin. Many have opened businesses and wish that they owned ourlastname.com, but I do. And because of that and a few other things along the way, we've stayed pretty technology focused as far as how we can do more for our customers with less on our side, to be able to provide experience. And that's been a huge boon to our ability to last this long and the success of the agency.
That's exactly where I wanted to go with the question was, it's day one, you start with your dad, and he says, if you don't love it, you don't have to stick with me, but you'll be licensed. So obviously you loved it. Did you love insurance, or did you love working with your dad at first? Because you have taken that technology approach, and obviously he has a huge business acumen. That first year or two, as a young guy, what part did you love? What was the really exciting part?
So I unfortunately am an outlier when it comes to that, right? Huge nerd. I really do like insurance. I read policy forms. I like to debate them. I like, it's just, I'll give something that's just true about me. And we actually talked about it a little bit offline, but I didn't go to college. I barely graduated high school. I got my good enough diploma, graduate equivalency diploma, at my wife's girlfriend at the time, urging, and so I really wasn't. I didn't have a lot of prospects, and something about the insurance industry gave me just enough ability to read contracts and sort puzzles and do these kinds of things that I liked without having actually had that formal like legal education or something of that nature. So I fell in love with that, not at any way, shape, or form that I will disparage the fact that I've had lunch with my father every weekday for the last 24 years.
Love it.
please, that is a huge, huge boon to the fact of what I get to do for a living and part of what I love. But what I fell in love with was the industry,
Right.
the opportunity, all of the different parts of it.
Yeah. I ask because I think when you talk about one, your own previous experiences, but two, the fact that you're truly in love with the industry, that gives an agency who today is maybe struggling with technology adoption or doesn't quite understand how to help their small commercial clients with their business in the same way they even know how to help themselves or are learning from their peers like you. It gives them that light at the end of the tunnel. Alex joined with his dad. Neither of them had been insurance agents. You didn't have a tech inkling when you first started. You had the acumen to go get it done, but what you really had was a love for insurance, a love for problem solving, playing through the puzzles. And like you said, like the icing on the cake, the exciting part all these years has been that you got to do it with people you love, which for you is your family. And, for many people, it truly is their family. Even if they started into the business a couple years ago, a lot of them start because they graduate high school, they graduate college, or, they're in their 30s and 40s and their parent is retiring and they come back to it. So I love that you guys are the light at the end of the tunnel for so many agencies, that you don't have to be a mastermind with technology. That does not have to be your forte to really build sincere relationships with your clients.
Well, so one of the things I do get asked a little bit about technology, just because I know what a tech stack is, and I can articulate it. Yeah. So I do get the question. I think that a lot of agencies, unfortunately, they look at technology as if it was something separate from what they're already doing. Right? We're not talking about implementing technology. We're talking about upgrading your fax machine to email. Mm-hmm. Right? We're talking about upgrading your phone tree to a VoIP system that allows you to be, anywhere and everywhere and be able to take that call. If you choose to, by the way, like a lot of these things are like, you don't have to answer a cell phone because you own one.
Yeah.
Right? That is not, I do not answer, I am very techie, but I do not answer business calls when I'm with my family. Mm-hmm. I don't. Right. Because I have never heard of an insurance emergency. I am not a firefighter. I cannot save anybody's life. Right. I can help folks after the fact sort through it. And I can definitely be there for that. And obviously, if it was, a very close relationship with a customer and it was a devastating situation, might be different. Yeah. But the average call is for a certificate of insurance regarding a payment, a question that occurred to them at 8:00 at night. Right. And they had, and so, that I don't bring that into my home. It's not the way I do it, even though I have the ability to, because I've got the technology to do it. The only thing we've done with implementing technology is just upgrade the way that we're doing certain processes, the same sales processes that existed before. I mean, I've been in the industry for 24 years. Our first printer was a dot matrix printer, which to a certain segment of the population, they won't even know what that is. And it was a printer that kind of drew kind of side to side, kind of like an inkjet. It had carbon paper. It's old.
Yeah, anyone that's probably younger than 30 probably has no clue what you're talking about right now. They've lost them.
Well, it's a true story. The first true appointment our agency got directly, because my father invested in a laser printer. So at the time,
love it.
Nobody had laser printers, or the plain paper printers that, your big Xeroxes, the little ones that are under your desk that, what you would call a printer. Yeah. And they weren't agencies didn't apparently have them in 1997. And so when this carrier came, we were filling out that little questionnaire that now we do online, but before they did in front of you. And Dad indicated he had a laser printer. And because we had the technology to test the systems they were trying to do, they gave us a full appointment. And obviously that helped our agency quite a bit. And then of course that reinforced the website, this situation, and a few others I can name down the way, where we realized that by upgrading our processes, using technology, we were going to be able not only to service our clients faster, but we were going to be able to reach carriers in a way that they're trying to move forward in their efficiencies. So it was a win-win. The trick is never to think about it as I'm implementing a thing for implementation's sake, right?
Right.
If you're going to implement a piece of technology, it has to be thought out, it has to be thorough, you have to have a plan in place, you have to have a process in place, and then have metrics to make sure that what you're doing is working, and be ready to pivot, because that's not a 2020 word.
Pivot.
That's a small business word.
Yeah.
You have to be prepared to change to meet your customers' expectations, to meet your carrier expectations at any given time, to stay profitable. And technology can, updating your technology, your processes through technology can help you do that.
I think something that's worth calling out too, that the way you're representing it is a lot different than how most agencies represent it. Is most agencies think of technology on a plain, linear scale. I have to take a step forward in technology. You guys are thinking about technology in a much more whole worldly 360 approach, that like technology has to advance on every plane in every direction. It advances in your carrier relationships, your customer relationships. I know you guys have a really exciting, fun culture. Like, it advances your culture in your agency. Like, every single one of those things. Technology is not one directional of I am advancing technology. Technology is a portion of how you advance everything else. So when we think about pivoting, and people say like, oh, I'm going to put a microscope on technology, I'm going to magnify that this year, and I'm going to pivot, and I'm going to use technology. They're not quite thinking of it right. Technology is something that's a factor in all the other things you're doing.
It's going to magnify your process,
Mm-hmm.
not the other way around, right? Like, why? So you take legacy employees, employees who've been around 30 years, right? And they struggle with adapting certain technologies. The reason the struggle is there, beyond the outlier situations, most of the time, is because the technology is not necessarily being explained to them. It's being implemented to help their current process.
Right.
So this isn't so that you have to talk to your customers via email. No. This is so that you can add that email birthday note on top of the things that you currently do. Mm-hmm. And you're going to see that you may shift, mm-hmm. because a lot of customers are going to want that different kind of communication. So you're adding to the process. Technology should always be adding value to the process, not the other way around. You can't take a piece of technology and make it work. Right. In your office.
Ground hole isn't happening.
Yeah. You have to have a process, and then say, well, are there efficiencies I can find there? Look through what's available and decide which efficiency may be best to get that process to where you want it to be. Do you want to communicate with your customers quicker? Do you want to be able to have more automation? Do you want to be able to send video messages to your customers? Like, all of these things are possible. And you do them now. What's the difference between sending a personalized video message and a handwritten note?
Right.
They're just two different ways of doing the same thing. Mm-hmm. You're still building a relationship. You're just doing it using a different process. And so that's the thing that, and I'm an advocate for using a handwritten note, because mm-hmm. they can be extremely effective when everybody else is sending video messages.
Yeah. So right? There's a space that you want to cut through the noise. Like, if everybody's gone video, go back to handwritten note. If everybody's handwritten note in your area, be video. Like, just be a differentiator there. How do you, because you leaned in on it a little bit there, that many times it's process, but sometimes it is actually people. And you and your dad have been in it there together since day one. How do you encourage an agency that is multi-generational, whether it's in ownership or in experience with their producers, to take the time and to identify what pieces of technology or what processes are going to work for their people?
Well, so you have to have a plan, right? So we just mentioned it a few minutes ago. The way we look at it is that we're going to have to change certain things for this business to continue to the point where maybe either a producer, who's currently on staff, or maybe one of, my kids, or one of my brother's kids, or cousins, or whatever, decides to come on and take over the business. So I can't just think about today, right? And my decisions have to be made long-term. So my dad and I share that mindset. So we're fortunate from that perspective. My recommendation would be is that look at that plan and talk about what you can do to actually, like, what has to change in order to actually get it there, right? So if you have a perpetuation plan, right, and things are going great, you're renewing 95% of your business with your current processes, and so on and so forth. The question is going to be, is in 5 years, is that still going to be true? And if it isn't, or if you're concerned that it might be true, well, what about that perpetuation plan needs to be reviewed in order to make sure you're reaching that goal in 5 or 10 years? And can technology help you along the way? Now, once you've identified what those things can be, right? So if you're going to be looking to hire new producers, you're going, or new CSRs or younger CSRs, you're going to want to have a more technology-based organization. You could have a bigger pool of people, right?
Mm-hmm.
So then, what are you going to do? What's going to be that thing that you do to keep your new prospects, as far as employment is concerned, engaged? You know,
Right.
how are you going to reach them? How are you reaching them now? Because if you want to find younger folk and you're looking for them in the newspaper, you're going to have a hard time.
Right. Right.
Right. So the question is like, so what is it that you want to change? Right. What do you think you can find efficiencies in? And then look at all the products available and decide the one that fits your business best. One of the wonderful things about the insurance industry, and specific independent agencies, is that we are a microcosm. We are a universe upon ourselves.
Mm-hmm.
And we don't have to do things the way anybody else does them. And our businesses can all be just as successful.
Right.
And so it's not a question of doing the next thing. The question is doing what's the right thing for your business. This is no different than buying a building, buying a space, hiring a new producer.
Right.
All of those decisions require planning. It would be the same exact thing. The only difference is that if you haven't implemented anything, or you've implemented very little, there's likely a lot of efficiencies that, if you spent a little energy now, will just increase profits significantly down the road, especially if you're looking to sell.
Yeah, that's a good call out. I like the fact that you point out many agencies look at what they do today and they, they turn off the light, they lock the door, and they have a successful agency. They're happy when they go home. I like the fact that you approach it with not only what's your 5-year goal, but is the status quo, your happiness that you have for yourself today, maintainable and achievable in 5 years? Because a lot of people, I think, struggle to set longer term goals, especially as, our independent agent channel is aging. Many of us say, well, in 5 years, I'm going to be retired, or I don't know what my perpetuation plan is. Your encouragement to say, is what you're happy with today achievable, maintainable, something you can be happy with in 5 years, I think gives them a better way to clear up the ambiguity between today and 5 years, to say, well, I'm really happy with my team today. Like, they take great care of my customers. In 5 years, is that the case? And you may say, Betty has been with us for 40 years already. Betty has told me she's retiring in 2 years to be a grandma. She's going to be taking care of that. That is a goal that we forget to set. If I just ask you, what's your goal for 5 years from now? You say, I want to have a successful agency. I want to be doing what I'm doing now. Or I want to be 20% better. People can set those numbers, but they lose sight of that in between. What happens in year 1 or 2.
It's a journey. Yeah,
right.
it's a journey. It's a journey that we all have to kind of go on, and the technology piece is a part of the journey we're taking along the way anyway. If 2020 taught us anything, creating expectations, what was it? I think the best quote I heard was Becky Schroeder from ITC, but she said, if 2020 taught us anything, it's not to make predictions. And I love that, because 100%.
That's where that ambiguity, like, you just clear up the ambiguity. Like, if we don't know exactly how we're going to get to be 20% better in 5 years, or if we can maintain status quo in 5 years, what you can start doing today is taking some of the obstacles off the journey. The things that actually stick out. And I think technology is the one that we keep procrastinating as an industry. Not you guys, like I said, you guys are pretty tech forward.
Oh, no. I don't, us too. I mean, it isn't, do we have the perfect technology stack? No, we have a good one for our agency. Our customers are happy with it, and our processes work. But is it perfect? What I would say that what I'm doing is going to work for everybody? Absolutely not. If you're a personal lines agency, I can tell you a few different pieces of technology that I don't use would work fantastically for you.
Right.
But I would never think of using them in my office.
Right.
And so, it's part of making sure that we're doing that work, that we are, looking to say, hey, where am I going to be in 5 years? But not just where am I going to be? It's like, how am I going to get there?
Yeah.
And that's the technology piece. At the end of the day, it's just like, what am I going to do to get there? Because Sally's situation might change 15 different ways. She could decide to retire. Her daughter could have their first grandchild, and they live in Wisconsin.
Yep.
And that's where she's moving to, right? So, do you want to keep Sally? Have you have a VoIP system? Have you created VPNs, or do you have an cloud-based system to be able to keep Sally in Wisconsin? No.
Right. Right. There's
Right. And so,
then. Exactly.
right. If keeping Sally is the objective, you have to be prepared to do so. That is the point, right? If you don't want to keep Sally and just replace Sally, then, and I don't know, I mean, Sally must be a great employee, but if you're Sally out there, call me, deposit.com/careers. But but the reality is that whatever your plan is, there's efficiencies that you can increase. And if you're not increasing those efficiencies, you're eventually going to become that guy or that gal or that person who says, hey, I'm upset that so-and-so down the street is taking business, or so-and-so is using this unethical or or a different system of coming to business. People are going to want to steal your book of business.
Mm-hmm.
That is what business is about.
Right.
Business is neither created nor destroyed. It only changes. Yes, I use Einstein for business, but it's true.
Business Einstein here.
Business, yeah, well, it is. It's true. It's neither created or destroyed. So it's moving. You're taking it from somebody else, or somebody else is taking it from you.
Right.
And you want to make sure that you're in the place where you have the most amount of ability to retain and keep that business going. And you're going to have to make some changes in order to do that. Technology can help you do it.
I think that's a really great place to wrap it up, because I think some people have probably sat there and been, okay, 5 years, I do want to be doing what I'm doing. I want to be doing better. And they're starting to scribble notes down on, I'm losing Sally, or Betty is retiring. They have their business Einstein hats on. So I think we can wrap it up there for them.
Okay.
Is there anything else, Alex, that you want to, I guess, just share to encourage agencies into 2021 through your own experiences, as we kind of put an end on this?
Well, if I'm going to say anything, I think as far as 2021 is coming on, and we're still seeing a lot of changes going on within the industry and a lot of changes outside of the industry. The biggest encouragement I want to give is that tomorrow is still coming. The sun will still rise. So be prepared to meet it as best as you can. Every day is a new opportunity to sell another policy, to retain another policy, to build another relationship that may not do anything for you today, but 2022 may bring you the largest account you ever had. So keep knocking on those doors, keep sending out those emails, keep using video testimonials, and you're going to see that you're going to be better in 2022, regardless of what 2021 throws at you.
Love it. Thank you for joining us, Alex, and congrats on being Agency of the Month. You guys earned it. You're awesome. You're just
we were very honored that such a forward-thinking company like Agency Zoom would choose us to be Agency of the Month. So very honored and humbled by that, and thank you for all that you're doing to help agencies everywhere expand their horizons and maybe implement some of that technology that they could use to help grow that bottom line today, tomorrow, and into the future.
Yeah, it's a lot of fun, and we're glad to have you guys, especially, like I said, we love calling out our Agencies of the Month, because you guys are really pushing us to keep being better and driving it forward with the independent agents. So love it.
Awesome.